Ever look at the price tag on new farm equipment and just gasp? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Figuring out how to scale a food or ag business when equipment prices are just completely outpacing farm revenues, it's a massive hurdle right now. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly how savvy agripreneurs are dodging these financial headwinds. I'm honestly so pumped to guide you through this because the strategies we're looking at today, they are absolute game changers for growing your business in this super tight economy. Let's get right into it. To get a real grip on this journey, we're going to follow a clear, four-part roadmap for today's explainer. First, the 2026 ag landscape. Second, the Alberta Food Center. Third, the equipment leasing ecosystem. And finally, financing and tax strategy. All right, part one, the 2026 ag landscape. Time for a quick macro environment reality check. Let's set the stage with the latest farm equipment outlook from Farm Credit Canada, or FCC. Listen to how Lee Anderson, a senior economist over there, puts it. He notes that new equipment prices are continuing to trend higher, moving in the exact opposite direction of farm revenue. I mean, that perfectly hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That is the exact squeeze producers are feeling right now. You've got low commodity prices dragging down your revenue on one side, and high input and equipment costs jacking up your expenses on the other. It really sets the stakes for why just running out and buying traditional, brand new equipment is getting so incredibly tough, and why folks are seriously having to rethink their replacement cycles. And you can see this exact squeeze playing out beautifully in the FCC's 2026 projections. Look at these numbers. We are looking at noticeably weak sales for new 40 to 100 horsepower tractors, the bigger tractors, and combines too. Manufacturing sales are literally bracing for an 18% drop. But then, look down at the bottom line there. A 30% jump in used baler sales? Wow. That is a massive pivot toward the used equipment market. Producers are clearly hunting for cost-effective workarounds instead of buying shiny and new. Oh, and there's this lingering shadow over the whole thing, the July 2026 CUSMA trade review. All that geopolitical uncertainty could keep steel and aluminum tariffs and, therefore, manufacturing costs stubbornly high. So if buying new and building your own facilities from scratch is just prohibitively expensive, what on earth is the solution? Well, that brings us to part two, the Alberta Food Center. Let's talk about incubating those ideas. 15,300. That's a pretty big number, right? That represents the square meters of the massive Alberta Food Center facility up in Leduc. To put that into perspective, it is the largest facility of its kind in all of North America. It is just a staggering amount of space, and it's totally dedicated to value-added food, beverage, and ingredient processing. Now, here is the absolute best part, how you actually get to access those 15,300 square meters. Instead of fronting millions of dollars in capital to build your own plant, the food center uses a brilliant fee-for-service model. For instance, say you want to do some benchtop product development alongside actual food scientists. That's just $350 a day. Want to move up to the pilot plant? $500 a day. And when you're finally ready for intern processing, meaning you are actually using their $30 million worth of specialized equipment to make product you can sell, it runs between $500 and $1,200 a day. Talk about a highly accessible countermeasure to those massive capital costs we just talked about. You get to keep your cash flow totally intact while testing your product in a literal world-class facility. And hey, if you want to move past the daily fees and actually lock down a dedicated 3 to 5 year lease in one of their processing suites, it's a surprisingly straightforward 3-step pipeline. First up, you just gather your info and whip up a solid 5-year business plan. Second, you complete their formal application. And third, literally just email the package to their team. A tenant selection committee takes a look, and if you're approved, you get to install your own gear right in their incubator space. Plus, you get to share shipping docs and food safety experts with other scaling companies. It's an incredible setup. Okay, moving right along to part 3, the equipment leasing ecosystem. Time to get that product moving. So, you're producing your value-added products? Awesome. But now you need the heavy gear to actually move it to market. The tractors, the trailers, the delivery trucks. Why lease instead of buy? Well, there are a few key advantages. First, you drastically lower your upfront costs. But honestly, that second bullet point on the list, that is the absolute holy grail, preserved working capital. Instead of sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars into an asset that's just going to depreciate, you keep that cash liquid. You can use it for day-to-day operations, bringing on new staff, or stocking up on inventory. Plus, leasing puts you in newer, more reliable equipment with the latest tech and gives you total flexibility to upgrade as your business rapidly scales. And let me tell you, the sheer breadth of leasing options available across the province right now is truly impressive. You've got players like Davis Capital Leasing, rocking 18 locations and specializing in holistic fleet management. There's Chinook Equipment, handling flexible solutions for ag and compact gear. Think Bobcat, Versatile, stuff like that. Then you've got Equipment Finance Canada, which is super fascinating because they handle complex cross-border purchases and can boast lightning-fast 24-hour approvals. Crazy, right? And of course, heavy truck and trailer specialists like Southland International. Bottom line, you are definitely not short on partners who want to finance your growth. Just to ground this high-level concept in some real everyday math, consider this specific rental rate from Southland International. You can grab a massive 53-foot tandem dry van trailer for just $140 a day or $525 for the whole week. When you're an agripreneur trying to manage day-to-day cash flow, those are incredibly manageable numbers. It keeps your product moving out the door without, completely breaking the bank. All right, the final stretch, part 4, financing and tax strategy. Let's talk sustainable scaling. So, we've got the product, we've figured out the logistics, but how do we manage the financial plumbing behind the scenes? Well, institutions like ATB Financial offer a whole suite of ag-specific solutions. You've got your standard operating loans to handle seasonal cash flow and specific farmland financing. But honestly, the coolest tool in their arsenal might just be evergreen financing. This is the ultimate flexibility. Basically, ATB approves you for one large amount annually, but you actually access those funds through separate, smaller loans throughout the year. And the best part? Each draw has its own unique terms, rates, and amortization schedule, perfectly matched to whatever piece of equipment you're acquiring at the time. Now, when you're structuring these deals, you absolutely have to understand a key accounting distinction, which the folks over at Fletcher Mudrick map out really well. There are essentially two types of leases. First, a capital lease. This means the asset actually sits on your balance sheet. You're basically financing it with the goal of owning it, so you expense the interest and you amortize the asset over time. On the flip side, an operating lease is essentially just a rental. The asset isn't on your balance sheet at all, and the lease payments are generally fully deductible for tax purposes. Keep that straight, because this distinction is absolutely vital for the tax math we're about to look at. Let's walk through a mid-year scenario from Fletcher Mudrick to see this in action. Say we have Farmer Canola. He needs a $300,000 combine, and he decides to pull the trigger on June 15th, exactly halfway through the year. If he buys and finances it, his tax-deductible portion is his capital cost allowance, or CCA, plus his interest. Now, in year 1, the CCA is capped at 50% of the normal rate. So for a Class 10 asset, he gets a 15% deduction, which is $45,000 plus his interest. That brings his total first-year deduction to $51,620. But if he leases that exact same combine for those 6 months at $5,650 a month, his deduction is only $33,900. So in this specific mid-year scenario, buying actually yields a significantly higher tax deduction right out of the gate. But wait, what if we flip the script on the timing? Let's say Farmer Canola decides to make his move on January 1st for a full 12-month period. That CCA deduction for buying stays exactly the same, but you add a full 12 months of interest, bumping the total buy deduction to $58,195. Now look at the lease side of things. 12 months of fully deductible lease payments? That comes out to $67,800. So in a full year scenario, leasing actually hands you the much larger tax deduction. I love this example because it brilliantly shows that there is no magic one-size-fits-all answer here. The exact timing of your acquisition literally changes your entire financial strategy. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. We've looked at how equipment prices are just stubbornly climbing, how shared spots like the Alberta Food Center offer incredible low-cost scaling, and how getting creative with leasing and tax strategies can completely protect your cash flow. So I want to leave you with this question. If flexibility is the new currency in agriculture today, is tying up your hard-earned capital in depreciating assets actually holding your business back? It is definitely a conversation worth having with your financial advisors. Thank you so much for joining me as we mapped out the 2026 Agripreneur's journey. Keep innovating, keep scaling, and we will see you next time.